welcome to episode number 35 of the Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam.
I'm Sahil.
And it's an emergency podcast. We're recording this one live Tuesday night. Today's Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. You're probably listening to this Wednesday, and a big blockbuster trade went down. And we felt like we weren't going to have time to give it its due diligence on next week's episode. We figured we got to talk about this now.
Yeah, it was a big one. This kind of came out of nowhere. And I'm not going to lie, Cam and I spent a bit of time kind of talking about the ramifications of this trade and really what we thought about this trade before we got on the air. Because I'd say this is one of the trickier moves to evaluate in recent memory. This wasn't a straight, prospects for major leaguers deal or a picks for major leaguers. This was a straight major leaguer for major leaguer swap. But these players are in very different positions, whether it comes down to age or injuries. So there's a lot to unpack. So for those of you who have not seen it by now, the trade was Bo with the Flow has agreed to trade Lance Lynn, Zach Greinke, outfield prospect Bayron Lora, and Cam's 2022 second-round pick to Erik for Luke Voigt, Kyle Lewis, Mick Abel, and Anthony's 2022 third-round pick. Do you want to lead off with your thoughts here, Cam?
Yeah, so first, I guess it's funny that you say that this trade came out of nowhere, because I think part of the reason this trade is interesting is because it very much did not come out of nowhere. It kind of been building for a while. There were a few teams interested in Lance Lynn, and I guess we can go into the backstory now. So we had figured Connor was probably in on him, and that was kind of confirmed when immediately after the trade went down, he said he was interested in a major league starting pitcher. And then we figured Erik was interested because Scherzer had gotten injured. We're still not sure how long he's out. And then later today, it was revealed that Tyler Glasnow is going to be out for a long, long time. Maybe it's Tommy John. Hopefully it's not. But if it is, he's out for a year and a half. If it's not, he's just going to be rehabbing and probably running out the clock until he eventually does get Tommy John. So Erik's short a couple of starters, and then that really kind of caused the push for him to kind of make this deal happen. And then I was involved a little bit too. Jake reached out to me about Lance Lynn. I made an offer involving Brandon Marsh, Bryce Terang, and then I would have gone a little higher too. But this was yesterday. I figured it'd be better for me to get out. Lynn is pitching on Monday against my team. I'd rather get out of this deal and hope that Lynn is off of his roster by the time he starts tonight to help my team. It didn't end up working like that, but that's okay. I figured I probably wouldn't have been able to top whatever offer that Erik or Connor had anyway, or maybe not able, but not willing. And then, so I kind of dipped out, and then tonight the trade went down, and it was bigger. It was much bigger than it was yesterday, I imagine. It was really complicated, a lot of major leaguers going both ways, and just a really interesting trade overall.
Yeah, I guess briefly from my perspective, he also mentioned to me that Lynn was available, and he said that Connor had offered a package around Spencer Howard, which led me to believe that Jake was maybe targeting some more prospects. But it turns out that he ended up making a deal for some major leaguers, which kind of goes in line with the Machado deal that he made a couple weeks ago, where he acquired a hitter in his prime. And while he recognizes that, maybe he's not going to win this year, he's not trying to just retool. But this offense looks a lot better now when healthy. So that's a caveat here. So Kyle Lewis is going to be out for quite a bit of time. Luke Voigt, I believe, is on a rehab assignment. He had an oblique injury. He's only had 50 plate appearances this year. And it's funny because I think if you were to look at this trade, say 2 months ago on April 15th, you could argue that we just call it a clear win for Clayton and Jake, because Voigt was coming off a season where he led the league in home runs with 22 in a 60-game season. That's fantastic. And Kyle Lewis was coming off a Rookie of the Year award, and he was still really solid this year before he got healthy. Maybe not as good as the previous year, but still really solid. And I'm sure those numbers would have gotten better as the season went on. M-SABR was an early second-round pick, and he's a Fangraphs top 100 guy, second best prospect in the Phillies organization per them. And then you look at the other side of this trade, and, Lance Lynn, has been fantastic this year. He's been lights out, sub-2 ERA, but he's 34. And, he has a rubber arm, it seems like. He consistently throws like 200 innings a year. What Tony La Russa as the manager, he's not going to try and keep taking him out after 5. He's going to get quality starts. He's going to lead this league in innings. But with any starting pitcher, and especially one in their mid to late 30s, the question is how much longer, can they keep this up, and can the arms stay healthy? And then I think you're saying a similar thing about Greinke too. Greinke's 37. His strikeout rate this year, interestingly, is down so far. So the last couple of years, he's had a strikeout rate kind of in the mid to high 8s range. And it's down to like a 6.5 number this year. Is that a sign of decline, or is this just not a big deal? We don't know. But, a lack of strikeouts is going to kill the fantasy value, even though he's keeping his ERA kind of close to 4, and he is going to provide those innings. So then if you're Erik, you've really helped this rotation that just lost Glass now for maybe even the rest of the season. And I think it's safe to assume that Erik needs to plan as if he's not going to have Glass now the rest of the year. And then you have Scherzer, who has this groin inflammation. I think he's going to be back in a shorter period of time, but, we're still not sure. And Scherzer is pretty old too. I think Scherzer is like 37 as well, or I'm going to double check this quickly. He's going to turn 37 next month. Is this just too aggressive of a win now move? Like, the rotation's better for Erik. I don't doubt that. But you're trading a 30-year-old who just led the league in homers last year and last year's Rookie of the Year. There are no slouches. I think that because of that, my overall conclusion from a value perspective, I think Jake and Clayton get the better part of this deal, because whatever years you're going to get out of Kyle Lewis, let's say 8 years, and like 4 to 5 years of Luke Voigt outweighs the year and a half Erik's going to get out of Greinke, and the, let's say, 3 years at best that he's going to get out of Lance Lynn. But from a win now perspective, I think that this move makes sense for both sides, because Erik's unloading a couple players that are maybe unhealthy and might have less of a chance to contribute this year, whereas he's getting 2 starters who have been very rock solid this year.
Yeah, it's tough. Like you said, it's a very, very, very aggressive move for Erik. And it feels like, in a way, it's a win-win for both teams, because Jake certainly gets the better value, I would say, in the sense that, Kyle Lewis is probably the best player in the deal, but he is acquiring two good major leaguers, but they are both injured. He is getting probably the better prospect, although M-SABR, we were kind of low on him in the draft, post-draft podcast, and we were kind of like thinking he was a bit of a reach at that point. He's a high school pitcher, and it's, kind of, but still probably a better prospect than Bayron Laura, even though I do like him. The picks are negligible, but yeah, Lance Lynn has just been tremendous this year, and Erik is just kind of banking on him and Greinke being good. And I think Greinke's, I'm not going to say he's washed, but he's close. He doesn't have more than another year or so left in the tank, I don't think. And I could be wrong, but he's on his last legs. Lance Lynn, he's older and he's still got a couple good years, but I was a little concerned about paying for maybe 1 year of him, especially for a team like mine or Eric's that has arguably too many old starting pitchers already. But yeah, Erik did give up a lot. He's clearly trying to win now, and this was maybe a bit of a win next year move for Jake, which is honestly the type of move he should be making at this point. And I don't know, I don't know how I feel about Erik's team now. The pitching staff is worse than it was before the injuries happened. Certainly, I'd rather have Scherzer and Glasnow than Lynn and Greinke. But yeah, he really wants to show that he's a top team this year. He really wants that number 2 overall seed.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I mean, I think this trade really hinges on Lance Lynn. I think, like you said, Greinke, is a bit older. I don't think this trade's about him. It's about Lance Lynn. But I think he could have invested a bit less and still gotten Lance Lynn. I don't think, that he needed to give up these types of pieces. Or maybe that was a price. Maybe that's what the market dictates, right? But I don't think that necessarily makes it a good idea. I mean, I do agree that, his rotation is definitely worse off without Scherzer and Glasnow. But I'd also say he's a pretty solid rotation even without making that trade, right? Montgomery's been pretty solid this year. Corbin Burns and Joe Musgrove have pitched like aces. His Pablo Lopez has been very solid. John Means, I guess, John Means and Zach Plesac are on the IL, but hopefully Means is going to be fine. And Plesac is going to start throwing this week. So, who's going to get them back come playoff time? Although, or at least by playoff time, probably earlier. But, with your race for the second seed, every week counts. So I get why, he wants to make these upgrades. And he still has Ohtani. So, I mean, one could argue he didn't really need to go out and get 2 starting pitchers. I wonder if maybe he could have settled for a cheaper deal for Greinke, and maybe it wouldn't have had as big of an effect on the rotation, but still would have, worked out. But this kind of leads me to a question I had for you, Cam. Do you think he robbed his offense a bit too much? Because, I mean, even though Voigt's hurt right now, he's on the rehab assignment. He will be back. I get that he has Jared Walsh at first base and Eric Hosmer, who I know that Eric's kind of lost a little bit of faith in. But it's not like, he's got Whit Merrifield, Jose Ramirez, they've been great. Teoscar Hernandez, Adolis Garcia's been decent, right? And Stanton, when healthy, and that's a big caveat, when healthy, he's been good. And Ohtani's been good. But I don't think this is a particularly deep offense. Like, I feel like there's some question marks.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly long term, short term for this year, he's giving up guys who are already hurt. But yeah, Voigt is on the comeback. He hasn't been very good this year, but it is a small sample. Jared Walsh has been great. Hosmer's kind of been iffy, and he's looking to get rid of him. And his only other, and I mean, Jose Ramirez is his main third base eligible guy, and his only other guy eligible at either first or third is Patrick Wisdom, who, I mean, is just like a total flash in the pan.
Yeah, he really is.
You're not going to rely on him. He'll
be caught in a week, maybe two.
He will be. I mean, wow, I'm surprised he jumped on him early. Good for Erik, but yeah, he's just a flash in the pan type of guy that Erik cycles through. So he's got these guys, that so it is tough if I guess Jonathan Scope has first base eligibility. So he has a little bit of flexibility, but if Jared Walsh goes down, he's in a lot of trouble on offense. And he's already relying on Jake Fraley and Adolis Garcia. So I mean, it's kind of what we were saying all year. And I felt like Kyle Lewis, especially he just won Rookie of the Year last year. He was the guy to get excited about for Erik's team that he's going to build his offense around. And I mean, that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, I'll make a couple trade comparisons here because I think this is I brought this up to you earlier in the second season of the league, right before the trade deadline. I traded an injured Mitch Haniger, an injured Giancarlo Stanton, and a Diamondbacks prospect, Geraldo Perdomo, to Anthony to get Pete Alonso. Now, one could argue the way things have played out that maybe I gave up a little bit of excess value. I mean, it took a little while for Stanton and Haniger to get back, but Haniger's been great this year before. I think he just landed on the IL, if I remember correctly. And Stanton, when healthy, has been pretty solid this year. But Pete Alonso was a Rookie of the Year that year. So I felt comfortable in being like, even if I was giving up a little bit of excess value, I know that I'm getting a player who can be on my roster for the next decade and has a ridiculous amount of upside. I mean, Pete Alonso hit more than 50 home runs this year. So even if I didn't win the championship that year, which I did not, I knew it would work out for the long term. And sure enough, Alonso helped me win a championship the next year. With Erik here, I feel like the risk is even higher because he's not counting on winning Greinke for the long run. He's going to have them in the immediate term and maybe for a year or two after with Lynn. But I think that means the margin of error here is really thin. And then the second trade that I wanted to bring up, which is a bit more of a cautionary tale, it's a little bit different in the sense that this player was not in the majors at the time of the trade, but I mean, he was tearing it up in the minors and I really wanted to keep him. I was convinced. The other Rookie of the Year that season, Yordan Alvarez. And I traded him for Greinke. This is the first year of the league, so Greinke was a bit younger, and Chris Archer. So Greinke was kind of where Lynn is right now, and Archer, in a way, not quite exactly as maybe what Greinke is right now. Greinke's actually been pitching well. Archer was decent, but not great at that time. And I'm regretting that move a bit right now because Yordan's become a really good player, kind of like what Kyle Lewis can become, like Yordan, Rookie of the Year, could really take off and be a foundational piece on a fantasy team. And Greinke helped me for a couple of years, and I don't regret it in the sense that Greinke helped me get a championship, but Archer was a total bust. I mean, I traded Archer the year after for a third-round pick, and Greinke didn't even get me a whole lot in trade talks when I ended up trading him 2.5 years later. So, both of those moves ended up working out for me because I won a championship. But I mean, there's no guarantee that works out. Erik has to win a championship or these moves are going to be bad for him. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard to win a championship. I know he's won 2, but the margin of error is thin and the league is a lot more competitive than it was those first 2 years. It's not a couple teams just dominating the entire time. There are like 7, 8 teams really fighting for playoff spots right now.
Yeah, it really is. I think, he certainly cut from his depth and position player depth was already not a strength for him.
It really wasn't. And I think he does a good job of identifying random bats to pick up to help him do well. And maybe he's banking on that. But this is something I've said in previous podcasts, which I thought was a problem in year 3 for him, which is why he didn't make the playoffs. He was just relying on so many unknown bats and tried not having like a good core. And that's why he went out and got Jose Ramirez this offseason and Whit Merrifield, Luke Voigt. I don't know if Kyle Lewis is on his roster last year. I think he was, but that's why he tried to build that core. And when he subtracts from that core, it makes things even more tenuous. So I still think this is a great trade for Jake and Clayton for what they want. I think for what Erik wants this year, it's going to work out, but it's a huge risk and it can really backfire. But, sometimes you have to make these risky moves to win a championship. You're not going to be successful if you don't take some risks in life. And I think the same applies to, fantasy baseball. Sometimes you win those risks and sometimes you lose. I thought, last year that Gary Sanchez could do what he did the April and May before and hit like 20 some homers in 60 games and help carry my team. That didn't work out so well, but I've made other risks and they've worked out. So, just happens to all these winning teams.
Yeah, it does. And I guess only time will tell. Maybe Lance Lynn will be the difference down the stretch for Erik's team. Or maybe Luke Voigt will come back and power Jake into the playoffs. You never really know with this league.
That's why we play the games. And that's why we get so excited when we see trades like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And was that all we had to say about this?
Yeah, I think that's all we have to say. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of more trades to talk about. As Erik recently announced, we're going to do another meetings. I know that a lot of trade talks have been going down. I know that I had told you, and I've said on the air, that I thought after Memorial Day would kind of be when a lot of these trades would start happening. So I think people like to take that first 8 weeks or so to really evaluate where they're at. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot of other fun trades to pass along. And we are going to do power rankings on the next episode. So we will kind of address whether or not we think Erik's additions today and any other possible additions he makes in between now and then will affect where we place him in the power rankings. I know I have a general idea in my head of where I want to place him, and I'm sure you do too, but I feel like things just change so much on a week-to-week basis, whether it's injuries or how teams play. So it's going to be fun. Was there anything you wanted to add?
No, yeah, just we'll see how this does affect the matchups this week and the power rankings. And unless we have any more emergencies, we'll see you early next week.
This podcast is good.